Everybody, welcome back to Video Game Esoterica and our continuing series, the Unported playlist, where we take a look at 10 of my favorite arcade games that never got ported to home consoles. And today we're taking a look at Dolphin Blue, released in 2006 on the Atomic Wave hardware by Sammy. Really, this is Metal Slug underwater, but that actually already occurred with In the Hunt, which was also Metal Slug underwater, except a lot of years previously. But as far as this game is concerned, it is absolutely outstanding because it is from some of the ex-developers of the Metal Slug series, and all those games are incredible, so how could they make another bad Metal Slug type game? Basically how it works is the backgrounds are in 3D, but the characters and all the enemies are still sprites, and it absolutely carries over that entire Metal Slug feel, charm, and look. And I think that's one of the strongest suits of the game, and these developers in general, is that the personality and the graphics in these games are just absolutely outstanding. Metal Slug looked amazing on the Neo Geo, and it still does to this day, and this basically is, like I said, Aquatic Metal Slug, except now you don't have to deal with any of the slowdown because this game is running at a full locked 60 frames a second with none of that slowdown. And you get to ride a dolphin. How could that not be fun? But interestingly, the Atomic Wave is basically the Dreamcast with some extra RAM, and it's funny how often the Dreamcast platform is used for arcade boards. The Naomi was a Dreamcast except more powerful. The Hikaru was a Dreamcast except more powerful. The Atomic Wave was a Dreamcast except again, it was more powerful. And Sega definitely got their mileage out of the platform, so it's really disappointing that they didn't port more games over. Now granted, this came out in 2006 and the Dreamcast was a distant memory at that point in time, but this easily could have been put on the PlayStation 2, Xbox, even the Wii shortly after that, but we never got a home port. And if you want to buy this game as its original arcade cartridge, you are going to pay dearly for the privilege. But if you are shopping for it, be very careful because there are a lot of bootlegs out there. Now, if you don't care about a bootleg, you can go on Alibaba and buy one of these cartridges for $100 and play it on your Atomic Wave. Generally, I don't collect conversions unless it's the only way to play a game. I've got a few conversions for my AES that are MVS games that you can't get on the home console, but otherwise, generally I just don't like buying conversions, so I'm going to emulate this one. Gameplay wise, if you played a Metal Slug game, you played Dolphin Blue, although I love this game because it is a little bit faster paced. You get some minecart sections, you get some vehicle sections. It definitely moves a little bit faster than a Metal Slug does. But I do like the fact that now that we're underwater, the game isn't slowing down. It's actually just slowing down your movement to kind of give you that sense of actually being underwater. And they do a lot of fun things with that, where they just kind of change the movement up ever so slightly. If you're underwater, if you're on land, if you're riding a dolphin, you get a lot of different feels. And you'll see here, like again, the character that we are fighting is a sprite, but his actual enemy is a polygon model. And that's something that's really interesting in the game, is how they mix those 3D and 2D elements together. I think they do an excellent job at it, and it's a really fun experience to be able to play something like this. So what I'll do is I'll actually let you just listen to a little bit of the soundtrack in the box, because I've got a lot more to say about Dolphin Blue, but after we get through this little credit scene, I really like the next area's music, and the game has a great soundtrack in general, so I'll let you listen to a little bit of it early, and then we'll come back around and talk a lot more about Dolphin Blue. But we did decent on that stage. Our result was okay. Let's see what happens next stage. I do love the entire soundtrack of this game, considering the Metal Slug series has such a good soundtrack as well, and some of the developers of that made Dolphin Blue. It really isn't much of a surprise that that good soundtrack is going to continue in. But now that we've destroyed that ship, you're going to be able to go inside and we're going to be able to fight a little bit more. And I do love how all the stages transition from one to the other. You have these screens that are in the middle where you're able to kind of navigate through, and it just makes the game feel a little bit more cohesive than it otherwise would. But as far as the general gameplay is concerned, it's not that deep. It is a run and gun. You move forward, you shoot. If you get close enough to an enemy, you can take your knife out and slash them just like you would the Metal Slug series. So the gameplay isn't deep as far as the control set's concerned, but you can get stuck on some things here like these little missile launchers that'll just completely destroy you, and I'll continue quick. But getting good at the game is really where the challenge is, because just like a Metal Slug game, you can definitely get through it if you pump enough quarters in and you'll see the ending, but actually getting through it well and not getting stuck like I am here becomes a lot bigger component of the game. Definitely has kind of that shmup feel where you can definitely beat the game, but did you beat it well or did you just get through to the end is kind of the question. And these games have that same feel where you can definitely, they almost have infinite replayability and you can just continue to get better and better. I would say that some of the weapon power-ups aren't as exciting as they were in the Metal Slug series. I mean, granted, my favorite's always going to be the blood-vomiting zombie from Metal Slug 3. That's an amazing power-up, or I guess a negative power-up because you become a zombie. But in Dolphin Blue, you get things like Gatling guns, different missiles, a firecracker, which is kind of an arced shot. So you need to learn how to use all of those weapons, and you need to learn when you're fighting a boss which power-ups to ignore, because some of them can actually be detrimental attacks. I mean, they still do damage, but they can be a lot harder to hit than something like the Gatling gun, which is just going to put out a lot of damage very quickly. I would say the designs of the boss are a lot of fun. I mean, they kind of lean on the tank concept a little bit, but a little further in the video we're going to see a train boss, and that's always fun. But the game definitely has a lot of charm, a great soundtrack, great gameplay, a dolphin, which is always going to be fun. So you get a lot of different components that are all going to make up the whole, and I think that's where Dolphin Blue really is outstanding. And it's definitely one of those games that not a lot of people have heard of. If you're a fan of the Metal Slug series, maybe you came across this game, and maybe you emulated it. Emulation is perfect. I had absolutely no issue getting it up and running. It took me about 5 minutes, and that was just download time, actually getting the game to run with a controller. I just double-clicked the file, set X input for the Xbox One controller, and I was in the game playing, no big deal, super easy. So that's a nice condition of trying to play this, is that if you actually want to emulate it, you're really not going to spend a lot of time doing it compared to something like Planet Harriers, which took me almost 2 hours to get running and then still continually froze in the same spot on me. I do like these minecart stages as well when you're riding the Dolphin. It has a lot faster of a movement than Metal Slug did, and I kind of like that. It feels like the evolution of Metal Slug, although I still, as a franchise, like that better. And it's unfortunate that we never got another Dolphin Blue game. It's just a one-off game. They were playing around with something, kind of wanted to make a Metal Slug game, but probably didn't have the rights to the franchise, so they made something new that felt very similar. But it could have easily been ported to any number of consoles. I think this would have been great on the 3DS with, you know, that quasi 3D element to it. It would have kind of made those sprites stand out a little bit. Some of the bullets and missiles stand out a bit. And I think that would have been an awesome idea for porting it. But this is one of those games where I completely understand why it didn't get ported, because it's not known to that many people. So I'm sure when they thought about bringing it home, if they even did, they probably realized that actually, you know, selling this would be a hard situation. Not many people knew about the franchise. Not many people probably saw it in arcades. So it was probably a hard sell. And I never have seen this in an arcade. I've never even really seen 90% of the Atomic Wave games in arcades. I think the one game that I had a chance to play was King of Fighters Neo Wave. So while it was popular hardware, it was definitely more popular in Japan. So I could see where this just wasn't really going to be a hit for home consoles. But they could still port it over. I mean, I don't know who owns the rights to this now, considering how many different acquisitions have gone on with SNK, with Playmore, with Sammy. It could be owned by Sega because Sammy's part of them now. Who knows who actually owns this? I'm sure maybe the rights in general are an issue to getting it ported, and that's a situation with a lot of old games, especially arcade games, is that you don't even really know who owns them anymore. Maybe you have a rights issue where you have to negotiate with somebody to even get a release, and it costs so much that they don't even bother with it. But I absolutely recommend you go out and emulate this game because I think it is outstanding. It's the evolution of Metal Slug. If you liked or loved that franchise, you're definitely going to love Dolphin Blue. As far as if you want to collect is concerned or not, if you were a deep-pocketed arcade collector and you love the game, you definitely probably already own it. But if you want to buy a copy of it, honestly, it goes for, I think the last copy I saw sell was well over $1,000. So you have to really be into it and really be a hardcore collector to want to add something like this to your collection. But hey, if you are and you do, definitely enjoy it. But short of that, that was Dolphin Blue, released in 2006 by Sammy. Now we're onto the train boss, and we're going to just kind of fade out here in a second. But thanks so much for watching. If you could do us a huge favor, go down below and hit like and subscribe. It takes us a lot of time and effort to make each one of these videos, and we appreciate all your support. But we will be back on Tuesday with another episode in our mainline series, as well as a video on Friday. And we'll be back next Sunday as well with another one of my favorite unported arcade games. But we really hope you enjoyed Dolphin Blue. Watch some of those bullet hell style attacks right here. But we will see you guys next time. Hope you have a great rest of your weekend. Bye-bye.